I don't know if you can hear that.
You're just going to hear the sound of your mouse scraping across the table.
All right, we're going live on stream.
And we're live, baby.
And we're live. All right, ready?
You
want to do the intro?
Sure, I can do it,
Okay,
yeah.
ready?
Yep. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Just Browsin podcast. I'm your co-host, Zach, back today with Matt, and we are here to talk to you about March Madness. We're exactly a week removed from the national championship game. We wanted to get together and do this last week, but here we are. It's been about a week. So we've had some time at least to digest it a little bit, consume some of the sports media discourse about it. But Florida wins the national title. They beat the other number one seed, Houston, in a pretty thrilling national championship game, actually, by a score of 65-63. And I was vindicated by feeling really strongly about Florida heading into the tournament after watching them play exactly like one game in the SEC championship, being like, I really like this team. And then sure enough, they won the whole thing. So I felt good about that. Other than that, it was a very, I would say it was an uncharacteristically kind of like straightforward.
It was a pretty boring March Madness. Until
about the Final Four. I thought the Final Four games and the national title game were really entertaining because you basically got, so what made the rest of the tournament sort of quote unquote boring because there wasn't a bunch of Cinderella like upset stories, also made the Final Four and the national championship really entertaining because you had the four best teams in the tournament essentially duking it out with each other.
Which was the first time in I can't even remember. It was like first time in like 15 or something.
Yeah,
something
I
like
want to say
years.
they said like 2007 or 2008, somewhere in there was the last time all four number one seeds had made it to the Final Four. So, usually we have like a 4 seed or, something like that.
Even
or at least
a
2 or 3. But this year it was like, you couldn't have gone wrong with just picking 1 seeds going all the way. I mean, usually like as you're filling out your bracket as the tournament starts, if you're picking too many of these, like, oh, my 1 seeds are all just winning and moving on, you're like, I know I'm fucking this up. Like, I need to pick some upsets. Right. But this year was like, well, actually, if you just did that, you probably did pretty well. Like, I talked to my old boss. He was talking about, he was in a family pool. And he was like, yeah, this year was weird because all of the kids who know nothing about college basketball, who just filled it out based on seeding, did really well, beat everybody. Because they're just like, oh, I'm just going to pick all the higher seeds to win. That's pretty much what happened.
I mean, looking at the bracket, right? You had 2 12 seeds. You had McNeese, who I was high on.
Yeah.
At the start, and
they did win 1 game.
They beat Clem. They were handling Clemson for a while, and then Clemson came storming. That was actually a real fun game to watch. Our local Colorado State beat Memphis, and then they should have beat Maryland.
I think they
got a lot of controversy around that. No call on the travel, but let's be real. If they're going to play like they're playing in the NBA, they don't call traveling. So.
Yeah, but this isn't the NBA. That was the only thing that upset me about it is we're watching so I didn't watch the whole game, but I watched the last couple of minutes and I saw that buzzer-beating game-winning shot. And what was really trippy about it too is the commentators literally spent several minutes during the timeouts and commercial breaks and all this kind of stuff, as they're bringing you back in from commercial, talking about giving you all of these examples of last second buzzer beating finishes that Maryland has been on the wrong end of all season, where they've lost these games at the last second. And then right after they say all of this, Maryland turns around and wins the game on a buzzer beater. So that was kind of trippy, but you're literally sitting there watching it going as they're showing the slow-mo replay, you're like, that dude took 3 giant steps and then let go of that ball. And they were just like, yeah, that looks fine.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for...
I don't know. It looks like a travel to me.
I'm all for the refs swallowing their whistles.
I mean, but on one hand, it's I understand if your point was, well, it's the last play of the game. Are you really going to wave that off on a travel call? Okay, I get what you mean by that. But also, it seemed to me like it was pretty blatantly a travel.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem with it was, and again, we're here in Colorado, so even though being a CU fan, it's always fun to see Colorado teams do well, especially on a national stage. The camera angle that really shows the big steps and okay, you should have called that, wasn't what you saw when you watched the play.
Yeah, when it's live, it doesn't really look like it necessarily.
So most of the negative feedback came once that angle got pushed out and was all over social media. Everyone's like, "What the fuck?"
It's in slow motion.
Okay,
you're like, all right, this
I believe
obvious.
there was an official right there.
Yeah,
because it should be 1, 1, and 1 on the baseline. So I would assume he should have seen it.
Yeah,
and it was one of those. Okay. Yeah, it's
So did you hear our favorite guy that we're always making fun of during NFL season, our rules analyst, Gene Steratore? Did you hear his explanation for it?
I think I had that on mute because I was watching one of the other games that night.
So I saw it a couple days later on Instagram, and I actually sent it to Taya because I was like, this fucking guy. Because every time he comes on, we're like, oh, fucking Gene. Oh, bring in Gene. Can't wait to hear from Gene. So anyway, they had him on like one of those like, college basketball analyst desks or whatever, and they were talking about the finish to the game, and they're like, well, what is your breakdown of the last second shot? Is it a travel or is it not? His explanation, as far as I can tell, was that he's kind of dribbling and he's going to his left, and so he's kind of picking it up in his left hand. Then he takes the steps and he jumps off his left foot and like puts up the shot. He said as he like crosses over and brings the ball up in his left hand, the first step or so he's like gathering it. He's still kind of bobbling it and he doesn't have control of it. He said the steps count, or they don't count until you like have full possession and control of it.
You could just do this all the way down the floor?
Yes. That was essentially what his argument was, which is what immediately I had the same reaction. I'm like, so essentially, if you just bobble it when you're trying to pick it up off the dribble, you can just dribble all the way down the fucking court like that and just take 19 steps. And he was like, yeah, you could essentially just go all the way to the hoop if you're bobble. I'm like, that makes no sense,
dude.
Just
take dribbling out of the game.
This is so fucking stupid. He literally crosses over, picks the ball up, and takes 1, 2, 3 steps, and then he shoots. Looked like a travel to me. I don't know. Call me crazy.
I mean, I guess it just depends on the angle from the ref. Like, if he thought that the first step was, like, the ball's still not in it. Like, I'll agree in terms of the possession. Like, if you just dribbled and the ball's kind of, like, maybe just rolling in your hand and you're not, like, possessing it in terms of, like, you got two hands secure on it. But, like, if you just crossed over when you took the step, I wouldn't count that step. I can't remember what the video looked like, but it's one of those things. Gene Steratore is going to agree with the refs no matter what.
Agree with the refs.
They'll be like, "Oh, that was a great call."
From him, yeah.
And it's like that was.
You know what that seemed like to me? That seemed like the in football. Did he make a football move after the catch? That
Define a football move, because if you don't get touched, a football move is like a front flip into the end zone.
What does that mean? Yeah.
Or they're like, did he possess the ball? It's like, well, define possession, because there's been plenty of catches where they have clear possession of the ball. They magically hit the ground, and all of a sudden you're like, interception. It's like, how's that an interception? It should be incomplete. They're like, touchdown, other team.
Yeah.
Your team sucks. It's like, okay. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty... You had 2 12s. You had 1 11 out of the entire tournament, and that was Drake. You had 1 10, I believe. No, 2 10s. Arkansas was the deepest team, a 10 seed going to the Sweet 16. And they should have beat Texas Tech, but Texas Tech came roaring back in that game to win by 2.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it was 1-3, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, all in the Elite Eight, and it just all 1 seeds went in. And I think the most exciting game of the year was Duke-Houston.
That was a pretty exciting game.
But talk about a blunder. I mean, I thought Duke was the best all-around team coming into the tournament, and they just I would say they fumbled the bag pretty bad, but nothing like Houston's last possession in the championship game, because that was just an absolute fumble.
Let's touch on Duke's game with Houston real quick before we get to the national championship game, because heading into, so you know how once we get past the Elite Eight and then the Final Four is set, we have a little bit of a break, and then there's like a week or so.
You got a whole week.
Yeah, of like, get the sports talk show circuits going, all that kind of stuff, get all the conversation, build the hype. So I was listening to a conversation between Ryan Russillo and Jay Bielis on Russillo's podcast. And I've always really liked Bielis. He's just a great, college basketball analyst, really well thought out, pretty smart guy.
Oh, you like Skip Bayless?
No, Bielis, not Bayless. And he was basically saying, Ryan Russillo was asking him about it. He's like, yeah, so all 4 number 1 seeds in the Final Four. What do you think? Like, who's going to take it? And Bielis was like, this is one of those situations where you could realistically see any of these 4 teams cutting down
whoever brings their A game twice.
He's like, all of these teams are deadly and dangerous in their own ways. Like, a lot of them have size and speed. A lot of them have really great offense. Most of them have really good defense too. Right. He's like, they're all just really well-rounded teams. He's like, I could see any of them taking it down. And he like basically broke it down of like, if this happens, if Houston plays well in these areas and like that could be their path sort of thing, if Duke does this right. So it was one of those things you knew it was going to be, if all four of these teams show up and play their A game, it's going to come down to the wire in all of these games. With the Duke-Houston game in particular, I seem to remember, and I don't remember exactly what the time of it was, but I remember as I was watching it coming down the stretch, it's getting to be like last minute. They were going over. They had put up a little stat about the last time Duke had a field goal, and it was like minutes of game time. They went so cold at the end of that game, where it was like, a lot of the conversation surrounded Cooper Flagg's last look, like his last shot there, that whole attempt or whatever, and it was kind of like, was that the look you want? Did Cooper Flagg like fucking choke or whatever? And there's this whole narrative where I was like, that's not what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on the fact that Duke didn't score a field goal for like 7 minutes of game time to finish that game.
The fact that you played a 20-minute half, and half of the half you didn't score.
Yeah, like if you do that in the back half of the second half of a Final Four game, you're probably not going to win. Like that's not.
I'm not a sports genius here, but the team that scores the most points usually wins. And if you don't score points for about 7 minutes in a game, where it's constant back and forth possessions, you probably lose.
That was my takeaway from that. I was like, Duke had that game well in hand, and then just went completely ice cold.
What were they up, like 9 with a minute left or something? And then Houston just stormed back. And it's like, but that's where March Madness finally kicked in. This is March Madness. Mm-hmm. This is like the run we talk about where all of a sudden now Duke just throws a turnover without any time coming off the clock. And you're just like, well, wait a second. Now it's a 3-point game.
Right.
And then they're like, well, wait a second. Houston's up by 3. And everyone's like,
yeah.
Wait, say that again? They're like, yeah, Duke was up by 6 with like 17 seconds left. And now Houston's up by 3. And you're like, in overtime, right? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
With like 2 seconds left.
So what was the final? I can't see it up right there. What was the final of Duke-Houston again?
So it was a 3-point game. It was 70-67, Houston beating Duke.
And then Florida-Auburn
was 79-73. So 9 points total differential in the 2 Final Four games.
Yeah.
And then the championship was 65-63. And Houston just – we kind of talked about it. I thought they had – if I was coaching, I love going for the win. But you got 20 seconds left. You're in the bonus. Just drive the lane. I mean, worst case, you miss a layup or something. Or worst case, you drive in, you bring 2 defenders with you, you kick out and have a good look at a 3.
Yeah.
Which is apparently what they were trying to do. They were like, no, we're going to play to win. But it's like you have 20 seconds. I feel like you got to be aggressive in that situation. Because you miss, you foul. Maybe they miss a free throw. Then it's still a one-possession game.
Time.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, we have buffer zone.
Yeah.
It's kind of like kicking a field goal on second down. If you fumble the snap, you just cover it. You call your timeout, and you're like, we got one more try at this.
Right.
And then you're like, hey, let's,
Yeah.
But it's like,
I agree. What stresses me out is watching what Houston did, where you bring the ball up and you're intentionally delaying time to get down to like that last second shot attempt. And it's like, that sounds great in theory if you get a good look with your last second shot attempt, but if what happens to you what happened to Houston, then you're fucked. If they play lockdown defense, or someone accidentally dribbles the ball off their foot, or they fumble a pass or something, like, well, there you go. Now you've wasted all of these precious seconds at the beginning of the possession, and now you don't get the shot off that you're looking for.
You went from 20 seconds of full possession to, I think it was 0.3 seconds for an inbound.
Yeah.
After and here's another reffing controversy, but it's not, I mean, it wasn't called because it wasn't played that way, but we were talking too, when the kid jumped up with the ball, right? He jumped up with the ball.
Yeah, so he went up for a shot. The guy closed out and was like going to block the shot. So then he just dropped it on the ground.
But he never dribbled. So that counts as his dribble. So technically I'm not saying I'm an expert with this at all because I can give 2 shits about basketball rules, but according to things I've read online from referees, they're like, that's not a travel. If he were to pick it back up, it wouldn't have ever been a travel because he never dribbled the ball.
Well, but he went up for a shot attempt, though.
Right, but then he let go before he hit the ground. So if he went up and then went back down, that's a travel, right? You can't jump. But because he never dribbled the ball and he went up and then he released the ball, that technically counted as a dribble once it bounced off the floor. But in his head, I mean, he's thinking of it technically in the right sense of like, that's a travel if I pick it up, or a double dribble. And so he went to box out to get his teammate to get it.
Yeah.
But I think even at that point, there were like 8 seconds left on the clock. And it's like, dude, just grab the ball, take the turnover.
I was going to say, even if he just picked it up and it was a turnover.
Because then he was like boxing out and his team, he didn't have a teammate
meanwhile,
close
the ball's just bouncing,
right.
time's going off. Yeah.
And so it's like, I feel bad for him because I think he made the right play because in his, again, we don't know
I would
how
have done
the
the
refs,
same thing.
we don't know how the refs would have called it. They could have been like, no, that's not a travel.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and also
play
that's just your natural reaction if you're playing.
Right.
If you go into the air with the ball, you're like, I have to either pass or shoot.
Right.
If I come down with the ball, I'm fucked. That's turnover. So it's like he goes up in the air. He's like, fuck, my shot's going to get blocked. And he just immediately like abandons it. And he's like, well, now I can't touch it.
Right.
But that's exactly how I would be thinking about it.
Right. And that's what I'm saying is like, I don't know if that's the actual rule that he could have grabbed it again and it wouldn't have, like, then he couldn't dribble again though. He would have grabbed it and just had possession and had to have passed. But it's like, he had the right thinking to not touch it. But at the same time, it's like you have the wrong thinking because you're down by 2.
Yeah.
Every second counts.
Every second matters.
And they didn't do it.
Even if
and
it is
just,
a turnover, just take the turnover
and
and you still
by the
have
time like
Yeah.
his teammates were realizing it, then it became a mad scramble for the ball and more time went off the clock and then it goes out of bounds and it's Florida's ball with, I think it was 0.3 or 0.8 seconds left.
Did you get so to back up a little bit before, because it was a pretty crazy finish, and we were texting a lot about Houston's last possession and that last attempted shot. Did you get the sense? I got the sense when I was watching that game that the game was really like incredibly fast paced, but like hectic.
Yeah,
it didn't seem like anyone was really in control, and I think the commentators kept saying like, "Oh, this is to Florida's advantage to keep pushing the pace like this," and I'm like. The whole time I'm watching, I'm like, you guys need to slow it down a little bit because they kept having like turnovers. They had a lot of turnover issues.
A lot of turnovers and then a lot of like bad looks in the lane.
Yeah, it just everything looked kind of rushed and sloppy. Like they were just flying around, and it was like guys would be, a half step ahead of the pass and kind of have to come back for it. They'd fumble it a little bit, or they'd try to throw it oop and it's off. And it's like, you guys need to like slow it down just a little bit. I get you want to push the pace, but this is not. Like, it doesn't look clean. This game is too messy.
At one point, when we were watching, I was like, oh, Houston's going to run away with this. I think they were up by 12.
Yeah.
And they looked really
When they
good.
went up by 12, I was like, uh-oh, this could get out of hand fast.
And then I think it got a lot more sloppy when Florida jumped back into the game because when you get that energy, you just start – like you said, you kind of just start running. You just start running and gunning. And I know, like, Proctor was playing out of his mind. Mm-hmm. But, like, sometimes, like you said, you got to just – hey – we got a great defensive stop. We're on this huge point run.
Right.
But let's slow it down on our end of the floor. Yeah. Regain some, slow it down.
A little control.
Let's get a good
things.
possession here. Let's get a good look to keep the run going and not.
Because that was my thing of like, I'm fine if that works well for your team to push the pace like that. You get fast break point opportunities. I get that. Like if you have a team full of freak athletes, which
controlled
both
chaos,
of those teams, both of those teams are full of freak athletes. I was literally watching at the beginning of the game, going like, Jesus, some of the dunks and stuff that were happening so fast. I was like, these guys are fucking freak athletes, but. Like you said, controlled chaos. Like the looks, if I'm their coach, I'm like, I don't mind the fast paced. I just need you guys to clean this up a little bit. It's just a little sloppy. So if we need to slow it down a little bit to make sure it's not so sloppy, then let's do that.
Right.
But like right now, it's a little bit chaotic and we're losing control of possessions because you guys are going a little too fast for things. Like,
right. There were a lot of turnovers off of like
Florida had. I remember them talking
the ball
about
off their legs.
Florida was having like some serious turnover troubles, especially in the first half. I was like, that's a high turnover amount for what they would ideally like.
22 total turnovers in the game. Florida had 13 and Houston had 9.
Yeah.
But it was just, It was just, but here's one thing too.
It wasn't like sloppy, but it was a little more sloppy than I think both teams wanted it.
Well, here's the craziest part, right? Florida didn't lead in the entire game until I think under a minute left when they took the lead.
Yeah, I think they said their last lead at that point, it was like 8-6 in the very beginning of the game or something.
Their biggest lead in the game was 2 points, and they got won by 2.
Yeah.
And Houston's biggest was 12.
Was
so it's
12, yeah. And I think that 12-point comeback is in like the top 5 or 6 point comebacks in the national championship game in tournament history.
But it's like, I mean, both teams Florida shot 25% from the 3, Houston shot 24%. Florida shot 39.6 from the field, and Houston shot 34.8%. Just 40 rebounds to 39, so it's just like awful shooting night for both teams.
Yeah.
Low scoring game, but the energy, that's where college basketball is so much better because the energy is just crazy.
Was insanely high.
And it's so much more fun to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just, I kind of wish Houston got it done. It would have been good for the Big 12. But Florida was arguably the hottest team going into the tournament.
The only reason I was pulling for Florida was, one, my dad and I had money on them in our bracket pool, and then we needed Florida to win so Taya could win. Which, by the way,
needed Texas Tech to win so that I could win, because no one else had Texas Tech. I was like, if Texas Tech wins, I win it all.
Which, by the way, special shout out to my lovely wife Taya, who this year in March Madness placed first in the Just Browsin bracket podcast pool, and also finished first place in my sister-in-law Kayla's pool, and was the first bracket out of 55 brackets and took home a $550 payout because it was a $10 winner-take-all.
You're welcome for 50 of those dollars.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for contributing. Appreciate it.
Hey, you know what? I took third in Just Browsin and fifth in that one. I was close in that one.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Like I said, I just needed Texas Tech to win, and I would have been in there.
So our buddy Caleb, who has auditioned for Third Chair on this podcast and been our guest host on this podcast many a time, he was in it all the way down until the last game or two in.
Well, he had Houston, right?
In Hoop There It Is bracket, the one with 55 brackets, and the Just Browsin one. He almost won.
Oh yeah. Well,
I think he needed Duke. I think he needed Duke and Houston or something like that, and it just didn't go that way.
Yeah, he was third with his Florida bracket, but the problem is, if him and Taya had the same championship game, Taya was already too far ahead in points, so it just doesn't matter at that point. But yeah, his Houston bracket. No, it wasn't his Houston. It was his Duke bracket. His Duke bracket would have been the one.
You know what's crazy too? Taya's winning bracket in that group pool with 55 brackets, she only won by 10 points. It was 1,720 points to 1,710 points. So she made one other correct pick in the first round or something, which made the difference.
Well, you know what's more crazy about that is someone scored 1880. So the leading bracket, there were two of them tied at 1880 on ESPN. So I think there was over.
Oh, you're talking about overall of all the brackets submitted.
So overall, there was, I think, over 25 million brackets for sure submitted on ESPN.
Wow.
And this guy missed. He had Louisville beating Creighton, so he missed that game. And that was the only game he missed out of the South bracket. He had Vanderbilt beating St. Mary's. That's the only game he missed out of the East bracket. He had Memphis beating Colorado State. That's the only game he missed out of the West bracket. And he had Utah State beating UCLA. So he missed 4 total games.
That is remarkable.
So one in each bracket. He missed 4 total games, or they missed 4 total games, whoever they were. And so that means another person only missed 4 total games, probably in the first round, that tied them. And that's just I don't know if you. So I did a girls bracket. I picked UConn to beat South Carolina in the girls, which...
Dude, UConn fucking handled South Carolina.
Sunday before... So last year, with the Caitlin Clark hype and, you know...
I watched that championship
It was fun to
last
watch.
Year, yeah.
So I'm like, I'll give Paige the benefit of the doubt and see what she could do, because she definitely deserved a championship there at UConn. And watching that game, bro, UConn they just put it on them, and they never looked back.
Well, apparently that's how they won their Final Four game as well, because Chuck and Francie were saying they watched the Final Four.
I think it was the largest margin of victory in NCAA history.
Jesus. Well, we were talking to Chuck and Francie, and I didn't see the Final Four in the women's, but they were like, UConn destroyed whoever it was they were playing. And then I watched a decent amount of the national championship game between UConn and South Carolina, and they just fucking handled South Carolina. I was like, UConn looks amazing, dude. This is incredible.
So, yeah, UConn beat UCLA 85-51.
Yikes.
And UCLA was, I believe, the number 1 overall seed in the tournament.
Wow.
They beat them by 34 in the Final Four.
How does that happen? Such a lopsided victory in the Final Four like that with the supposedly number 1 overall team. That's fucking crazy.
UConn was just disgusting.
Well, we were talking about it, and that was Gino Ariema's, I think, his 12th national championship in his coaching
12th national
career.
championship since 1995. And he's been to 24 Final Four appearances since 95. So
Oh my
24
God.
of 30 years he's been in the Final Four.
That guy is remarkable, dude. He is
Yeah,
remarkable.
the greatest women's basketball coach of all time.
And it's not even close.
And it's
yeah.
I mean, there's like
unbelievable.
coaches that you could be like, well, she was great, and it's like, yeah, but what he's done for UConn is
Just the championship
ridiculous.
pedigree there is like insane. I wonder who's up in second place behind him in terms of national championships in women's basketball.
They showed it, and I think her name's Pat Summitt.
Pat Summitt's up there, I know.
Tennessee.
There was
What's her name
I kinda wanna
from
look this
South
up.
Carolina's up there.
She's
because
won a handful
3,
here
I think,
recently,
in the
right?
last
Yeah.
10 years. The Stanford coach, I think, has won 3 until she retired. And then there's one other coach that I'm missing. What was another really good girls program?
UCLA.
No, I don't think it was UCLA. Oh, why can't I think of the Tennessee, UConn, South Carolina, Stanford, and there's one more. Why can't I think about? Maybe I'll just go look here. LSU, the LSU head coach. She's up there too because I think she's won 3 recently.
Here, let's see. Oh, thankful for the AI overview. Gino Ariema has 12 championships. I guess it's all with UConn.
Yeah, since 95.
So 95, 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2009, 2010, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016,
and
and then this year, 2025. Pat Summitt has 8.
Yeah.
She won 87, 89, 91, 96, 97, 98, 2007, 2008. So Kim Mulkey, she's currently
the
the
LSU.
UCLA, or is she LSU?
think
She's
let me
LSU. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
She's the LSU coach.
So she has 4. She won 3 with Baylor, I guess.
Okay.
And then she's got 1 with LSU, and that was in 2023. That was real recently.
Yeah.
And then Dawn Staley is the South Carolina head coach. She's got 3.
Right? Yeah.
And that's all real recently, 2017, 2022, 2024. And then this is Tara Vanderveer.
She's the Stanford coach.
Oh, that's the Stanford coach?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's got 3 as well, and it's all with Stanford.
Yeah.
So really, Pat Summitt's the closest, and even she's 4 behind Gino.
She's definitely, I think, the icon of women's basketball coaching for sure.
She's on the Mount Rushmore of women's basketball.
But Gino's, he's just done something special up there at UConn.
Remarkable.
And I was really happy for Paige because she's had like one of the craziest college careers ever for an ultra star player. That it's just like she deserved it. They won, and now they have. I can't remember what her name is.
How about that UConn program too?
Sydney Strong?
They're
No,
coming
no.
off of back-to-back men's national titles, and they just won another national title this
Sarah
year.
Strong is a 6'2" freshman, and let me tell you what,
She can hoop.
she is good, and she's a freshman.
Shit. So they're going to be good.
I wouldn't be
while she's there,
surprised
too.
if they could repeat next year,
Yeah.
or at least be back the next 3 years. She's there.
Yeah.
She is good. So,
While we're talking about women's basketball, Kim Mulkey, the LSU head coach, I just want to give a special shout out to her fucking swag on the sidelines. She's always like the swaggiest dressed person I've ever
just
seen.
blinged out.
Just blinged out. She's always got these like crazy. I literally just went to Google Images the other day because I was like, I don't watch a lot of women's college basketball, but every time I turn on the TV and they're playing, I'm like, she's wearing like the craziest
Just like
dress
straight
or
bedazzled.
outfit. It's just- everything's bedazzled.
suit.
She's like sparkling and stuff. She's always got like these sick LSU like all purple like bedazzled.
The
tops
opposing
on and
team
stuff,
shooting
and I'm
free
like,
throws, and she's just standing in the crowd going like this, just blinding
Literally.
them.
Literally, she's like a fucking
Well,
disco ball over there.
There's a funny video of her doing an interview, like a post game interview, and I think it was a little granddaughter was like running around and like I don't know if she pulled on the headset, but all of a sudden you just see like the headset just like fall off the back, and she's like catching it, and she's like turning around, and she doesn't look like when you just look at her, you're kind of like, oh, she's not one you want to mess with. And then the person giving the interview said something like, oh, it must be great to have your grandkids, or whatever, and she was like, yeah, it helps. But I was just like, that's pretty funny that, hey, go pester your grandma while she's giving an interview.
Well, and you can tell she was like, if I wasn't on national TV right now, I'd whoop your ass.
Oh, where's your mother at? Where's your father
Go
at?
find your mother.
I'll have a meeting with you later when there's no cameras and lights around. But no,
Oh, man.
I It was a fun March Madness, but it was also a letdown of March Madness because
here it is. We get to this point every year. It came and it went just like that in a fucking blur.
We have the Stanley Cup playoffs starting on Saturday, Sunday. The Avs played the Stars in the first round.
They're on basically the same schedule as the NBA, right? Because the NBA.
Yeah.
So does the play-in in the NBA
starts
Are
tomorrow.
we technically? Does that count as the playoffs? Like, can we say the playoffs start tomorrow, or does the play-in tournament not really count?
I wouldn't count it because it's one and done for the 9-10 seeds.
Right.
So 7-8 play tomorrow.
Well, and I guess now that I'm thinking about it, it technically doesn't count because if you're calling it the play-in tournament to the playoffs, then you're not really in the playoffs until you win.
It's a best of one.
Yeah.
So 7-8
really
I think is
start
tomorrow.
Saturday.
So that's who the hell is it?
I was just looking earlier.
The Warriors and the Grizzlies. Warriors-Grizzlies play tomorrow, I think. And then two teams from the East.
The Heat and like the Bulls or someone play, don't they? Okay, so tomorrow night.
I do have ESPN right here.
Tomorrow night, out of the East, it's Hawks and Magic, and then out of the West, it's Grizzlies Warriors, and then they have games Wednesday night as well. It's Heat and Bulls out of the East, Mavericks and Kings, and then they have Friday will be, I guess, the
Friday
winners.
will be the losers of tomorrow playing the winners of the following day.
Okay.
Because 7-8, if you win, you're the 7th seed. You lose, you go play 9-10 to get the 8th seed.
Okay, I got you. And then the actual playoffs
start on Saturday.
And the Nuggets got the Clippers.
The Nuggets got the Clippers, 4 seed.
Yeah.
Lakers got the Wolves. That'll be a bloodbath of a series.
Yep.
Houston, we'll find out. We'll either play the Warriors or the Grizzlies. And then OKC will play the Warriors, the Grizzlies, the Kings, or the Mavericks.
Yeah.
So it'll be.
I'm interested to see how
the West is going to be a bloodbath.
The West, the finish to the West was insane. We had like, what was it? We were talking about it the other day. It was like spots 4 through 7 all had like the exact same record, pretty much.
Well,
coming up to the last day of the league, or
so the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers all finished 50-32.
Wow.
The Timberwolves finished 49-33. The Warriors and Grizzlies both finished 48-34. And so it was like, if the Nuggets won, it didn't matter. They were guaranteed the 4th seed. But if the Warriors won and the Timberwolves won, then the Timberwolves would have jumped to the 5th seed. The Warriors would have gotten the 6th seed, and the Clippers would have been in the play-in bracket. And it was just like, so many things could have changed and happened.
You and I were talking on Sunday, and it was like, if the Nuggets win, they're the 4th seed.
Yep.
But if they lose and a couple other things happen, they could find themselves in the play-in tournament, which is wild to think. Like, how do you go from the fucking 4th seed?
Well, how do you go from almost holding the 2nd seed for quite some time to
having to
play? Are you going to make the actual like playoffs right away, or are you going to have to try and play it in?
Which, by the way, since we're on the podcast and we're talking Nuggets basketball, you want to talk about the whole Mike Malone situation? What the fuck's going on there?
So I actually watched like a half-hour interview with Kroenke, who's his dad's the owner.
I watched a little clip of that.
He's the chairman. He came out and he's like, I didn't handle things the right way. From my understanding and from things I'm reading, again, we're not going to get the full story because it's going to be he said, and then we're just going to get bits and pieces from players. From everything I'm hearing is, well, Calvin Booth, who was the GM, was up for a new contract. So they were in discussions, I think, in the summer leading into the season about the contract. Him and Malone have been butting heads because Malone wanted to be a more veteran lineup. You need veteran depth to win. That's how we won our championship. If you look at our team when we won, you had like Bruce Brown, Jeff Green. Like, we had a deep team coming off the bench. Booth wanted him to use and play all of his draft picks that he's acquired, all these young guys, Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, Jalen Pickett, all the younger guys. He wanted him to play. Well, if your GM and your head coach are fighting, that's never a good thing because your GM's like, well, play my players I draft, and the head coach is like, give me players to fit my system to complement what we already have.
Right.
So they weren't like on the same page with building the team. So apparently according to Kroenke, I believe he said he had 2 almost fires of the team. I believe it was when the team started out 11-10. He was ready to let go of, I think, either one or both the GM and head coach, so either Booth or Malone. And then they kind of went on a run, and then it was the All-Star break. He was ready to let go of either one or both again.
Well, coming out of the All-Star break, I guess we were like, or was it going into the All-Star break?
I think it was going into the All-Star break. We were on an 8-game win streak, but he had that that feeling, but he's like, I can't. We're on an 8-game win streak. Like, you don't just
right. Yeah, I don't want to fuck with this right now.
And then after the All-Star break, going into the All-Star break, we were solid in number 2. Like, it was like, oh, the Nuggets found their stride. They're here. And then I think we went 13-11 the rest of the year.
That's what it was. It was following the All-Star break.
Right, following the All-Star break,
because that's what I heard mentioned about. Like, I didn't like the way we looked post All-Star break. We were only 13-11, whatever. I'm like,
right.
Okay.
So a lot of it's been discussed. Like, at least the reason both got fired, because people are like, why wouldn't you just fire one or the other? He's like, I don't want to take a side, is what I'm getting from it. He didn't want to be like, well, I agreed with the GM that we should have played younger guys, or I agree with Malone. Because then there was building anger and like, it was just more anger. Apparently he was easier on Jokic and Murray than everyone else. And then so that irked some of the other players the wrong way. And I'm like, I can see that. I can agree to that a little bit. But then even Malone came out and he goes, well, no one wanted to watch film anymore. We literally had to take film to them. And I don't know if he said Jamal was skipping workouts, but it's like,
I heard some story about that. Yeah,
it just sounded like there became this huge like blunder of culture, and it started with him and the GM fighting, and then it started with like Malone being he was more of an old school coach. Like, I'm not going to coddle you. I'm going to be more of the hard-nosed. So I guess he was harder on some players than others. And I think the real tipping point, though, was when the Nuggets, I think it was when they lost at home to the Wizards. A couple weeks ago, lost at home to the Wizards in a must-win. They're the worst team in the NBA, or second worst team in the NBA.
Yeah.
And you lose at home, and I think Jokic was like, there was like a boy, like Jokic had not like a breakdown, but was
that the one where he was like starting to show
ultra frustrated,
visible frustration, where typically he's not
right
like that.
And so I think it all just, Kroenke kind of said in his interview either yesterday or today, he was like, yeah, you could go into the room and you couldn't, we built a culture here. And he's like, it didn't.
And there was like split loyalties.
There were no smiles, right?
Yeah.
Some people were loyal to Malone. Some people were like, and it was just one of those like weird relationships.
Do you agree with the timing of it?
So funny enough, Taylor and I were at the gym that day, and I'm like, you know what? The Nuggets need to get rid of their GM at the end of the year. And I'm like, honestly, it wouldn't be a bad thing if they got rid of Malone. But I'm kind of sitting there and I'm kind of going with Jokic's blessing, because as a Denver fan, I never want to see Jokic wear another jersey in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that should be the Kroenkes as the ownership. That should be their end goals. Like, Jokic will always be here, no matter what. Until he doesn't want to play in the NBA anymore.
Like, this guy can be our Tim Duncan.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whatever you have to do to make him happy and put a good team around him to win, do it. I don't care. I like Malone. He won us a championship. He built a good culture here, but I could also see we have a lot of fragile young athletes coming up now that can't take the anger and like a stronger type of coaching. They need to be coddled and have their balls held for them through fucking life. And do I think the timing was really awkward? 3 games left into the regular season. Yeah, I was one of those. Go through the playoffs, see how it unfolds. If we get bounced early in the first round, it makes it look like, hey, I made the right decision firing him.
Yeah.
Because now the talk is, why would you fire the most winningest coach in your franchise history 3 games before the playoffs?
That was my thing. I'm at work the other day, and my coworker Robert, big Colorado sports guy. So we talk Broncos, Nuggets, Rockies all the time. Well, Rockies typically not so much because they're fucking
Who are
terrible.
the Rockies?
That's the team that we don't refer to anymore.
Right.
But he IMs me in the middle of the workday, and he's like, "Dude, did you just hear about Mike Malone?" And I was like, "No, what about him?" And he goes, "They fired him." And I'm like, "You're shitting me." I'm like, "Are you joking?" He's like, "No, go look it up." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Why would they do that? Aren't we like 3 days before the playoffs?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, the timing of it. Well, first of all, like, I don't really agree with the decision. I guess all of the stuff that you just outlined, like, I guess if that was going on, sure, maybe it's a culture thing, but it seems like you're kind of reaching at that point for like an excuse to get rid of people. When you have the winningest coach in your franchise history, a guy who just literally won the NBA championship 2 short seasons ago, and now like, oh, so some guys are upset and like there's some shifting loyalties and we're just going to abandon this whole fucking project. I don't really understand that. And then the timing of it seemed wildly insane to me. Right before the playoffs,
it's
I'm like,
the latest any playoff
I'm like,
playoff bound team has ever fired a coach.
yeah, I'm like, that could completely dishevel any plans or any potential success this team might have had in the playoffs. I mean, who knows? Maybe they still make a deep run. Who knows? But like 3 days before the playoffs, let's upend this whole thing and fire the fucking coach. And now we're playing with an interim head coach. Like, do we think that's going to go well?
Well, so I think
unless Jokic just has 60-point triple doubles the entire playoffs, which he might. He might.
That'd be fun. But I think in the moment is like, because like I said, I was talking with Taylor about that, and I was like, they should do it. And then like literally like 30 minutes later, after our workout was done, she goes, "Oh, Malone got fired." And I thought she was just like fucking with me, like because we just talked about it, and I like it literally just happened after we had just talked about it, and I'm like, that's weird. And I'm like, that's kind of weird timing. Like you're kind of like indicating you're throwing in the towel for this season.
Right.
You're like,
that's kind of what it seems like.
You're good with scrapping this year, like, you know. And then my biggest thing is, well, did you talk to Jokic about this shit? Like, just make sure he's happy. And then,
so I know Jokic made some comments. What were his comments? Was he informed before it happened or no?
So he was talked to a little bit before it was happened, but I don't think he was consulted. They weren't like, "Hey, we're thinking of firing both the GM and the head coach." I think it was Kroenke was like, "Hey, I want to let you know I made up my mind. I'm going to relieve both Coach Malone and Booth of their positions. Adelman's going to come in and be the interim head coach, who's been with you his whole time here in Denver, you know." And I think Jokic, like some of his comments were like, it's business. Like he goes, "Yeah, I have a good personal friendship with Malone. Malone went out to Serbia to give him the MVP. You know, like they do have a good friendship." And I think Jokic kind of was like, it's a business decision. Like basketball's business. That's why we're all here. And I think he was kind of like, it sucks, but at the end of the day, like, we're here to win games. We're here to win championships and play basketball.
So like, got to move on now. I guess.
He goes, he has that attitude, and Kroenke kind of said that today. He kind of has that I don't give a fuck attitude. Like, we're all like, Jokic just cares about his horses. But I think in reality, he really cares about winning and playing basketball. Like, he really loves doing that. He's just, this is his personality. He just doesn't want the limelight. He just wants to be like, yeah, I want to go home to my horses. And then people are like, okay, this dude doesn't want to interview. And it's just like, he just doesn't want to talk to you. He loves playing basketball, wants to win championships, but he just doesn't want to be.
He doesn't want to deal with all the extra shit.
Right.
He's like the embodiment of I'm only here so I don't get fined.
Right. But I'm also the greatest player on the planet right now, and I love playing the game. I just don't want to be in the spotlight.
Yeah.
It's like, well, but he's really good at both.
Yeah.
So it was weird timing, and I was like, well, I think one of two things is going to happen here. We're either going to see the Nuggets play 3 good games, and they're going to win out, and you're going to see them maybe have a little bit of like a different attitude going in and out of the games, or you're just going to see a team that just didn't care about Adelman either, was super dysfunctional, the toxic, because like hockey, you trade one toxic player away, and all of a sudden the team that traded him away could go on an 8-game run. And you're like, oh, so they really were a cancer in the locker room. That's the same with all professional sports. You're together constantly for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And they came out and they won all 3 games. And even some of the announcers on ESPN, I can't remember what game that was, but they're like, the team's smiling. They're like, the players are smiling on the bench. They're having fun, which it didn't look like they were having fun after the All-Star break. They're like, they're like, the attitude the Nuggets have right now seems completely different than it did 3 games ago. And
well, maybe they're going to rally behind this and make a really good playoff run. Who knows?
Well,
I hope it doesn't go the opposite direction where it like comes
Right.
undone and they look discombobulated. And
well, I think they've looked better as a team. Jokic's touches in like the first game out, he had 20 less touches in the game. Still had a triple-double, but everyone else I think that started scored 20-plus points. And Adelman's like, I'm not going to play players just to get them minutes. The best 5 will be on the floor at the end of the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if Jamal is 1 of 15 in the game and Jalen Pickett is 10 of 15 in the game, Pickett's going to finish the game for us. It's not going to be Jamal out there.
Yeah.
He's like, the best players, the best 5 will finish the game for us. And he goes, that's just how it goes. Sometimes you have the hot hand and we need to just keep you in the game. We're not going to take you out just because someone else's name is bigger or they're getting paid more. And I'm like, that's what a coach does, though. You feed the guy that's hot. And
So you want to hear a crazy stat that goes along with this whole story and discussion? I think it was Adam Schefter, because I started following him on Instagram like last year because he's Mr. Breaking News guy. Usually,
Right.
typically for NFL stuff, but he broke the news about the Michael Malone firing as well. He was saying, and I did not realize this, but he said that if you look at the last 6 years worth of NBA champions, like NBA winning teams, 4 of those 6 head coaches of those teams are no longer with the team that they won the NBA title with.
Yep.
And I think it was the Raptors head coach Nick Nurse when they won like in 2019, Frank Vogel with the Lakers in 2020, Budenholzer with the Bucks in 2021, I think is when they won. And then now
Malone in 2022.
Mike Malone and they won in was it
23.
2023? They won in 2023. So it's like that's pretty fucking wild that like all of those guys won a title and then like within 1 or 2 short years it was like you're out of here, dude. It's like fucking crazy, dude.
And I thought Malone was going to be here until I was like, oh, we got to go through like a rebuild kind of thing. But again, culture is just such like a... Like I thought John Fox for the Broncos was a great coach. I thought Peyton Manning loved him. He couldn't win the big game, so they let him go. And it's all about like Jokic is in his prime. If the GM and head coach can't come together to like game plan around Jokic and build the team around him to win, the Nuggets should always be in championship contention while Jokic is in his prime.
Yeah,
like just
because he's the best player in the world.
He's the best player in the world, and you should be able to put players that want to play around him. And it just seems like the dysfunction between a coach and a GM just led to like roster disputes, and you just can't have that on a team.
Especially if you're trying to make a run and win titles. Yeah.
It's one thing if the GM doesn't agree with something that you're doing, but you're just like cranking out wins, and you're like, fuck off, dude. Like
it clearly works.
I'm winning.
Yeah.
And it's another thing if you're like, hey, we're 15-50, and the GM's like, play the young guys, and you're like, all right, well, let's bench all the veterans and just give the young, see what we got.
Right.
You have the best player in the world. You have a decent point guard in Jamal Murray if he decides to play and is healthy. I love Aaron Gordon. I think he's just a great power forward.
Yeah.
And then you have MPJ, who is a J.R. Smith type shooter, where he can go 9 of 10 from 3, or he's going to go 1 of 10 from 3.
Yeah.
And so you have a good team, but it's one of those things. It's like it just seemed like they all got discombobulated, and apparently most of the beef between Booth and Malone stemmed from the KCP.
Oh, interesting.
Malone wanted to keep KCP, and Kroenke, the owners, apparently, I don't know this for sure, him and Booth said, no, we're not going to like match the offer sheet. We're going to go younger. Then they traded up to get Peyton Watson, and then it's just like, it starts that whole, trickle-down effect.
Domino effect of it.
And then when Calvin Booth's talking about his extension in the offseason, and then leading into the season, apparently talks just stopped, and the Kroenkes were like, all right, we're not gonna entertain this anymore. Like, we're not gonna re-sign you. So then it's just like, okay, you're not re-signing your GM, because if they re-sign Booth, then Malone would have been fired, and Booth could have done whatever he wanted to do with the team. But it's like, we're not going to resign you, so you're just going to... And that's when it was like, we should have just fired him at the beginning when we were 11-10. It's like, yeah, you should have. It would have saved a lot of drama.
Yeah.
And then they're at where they're at. And I think Adelman if the players play great around him, because he even said in one of his post-game interviews, and he's a nice guy, like seems really calm. He goes, yeah, in the timeout, Jokic asked for the whiteboard, so I just handed it to him and kind of backed out. And he goes, Jokic was just drawing up plays and like coaching.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, I'm not going to sit there and be like, no, you have to do it my way. He's like, they want to run that way. Jokic knows who his teammates are and how they can do this shit.
That's like having Peyton Manning on your team. It's
right. Or like Tom Brady's
basically let him call the offense.
Give me 5 plays and then I'll just put them all in one and we'll score a touchdown.
Right.
And it's so Jokic and Adelman's like, no, I don't care. Like I'll let them coach themselves if they want to. And it's like that's I think what Malone wasn't doing. He was like, you have to do this, and so it all fell apart. Weird timing. I like Michael Malone, but I want to win again. I want to keep Jokic here.
Yeah. It'd be fucking awesome if the Nuggets were able to win again. I think me and Ty are going to try and go to at least a playoff game this year. I want to see them play a playoff game.
Well,
I regret not going to see any of the deep playoff games or our NBA Finals game when they won in 23. So,
I told
I'm going to go to a couple playoff games, I think.
Well, tickets as low as $53 for Saturday's game.
Yeah.
I don't know where you'd be sitting, but probably where your nose will bleed. See, if you wanted 2 tickets right now, $75 to sit up here. Right there.
Well, and it's that thing too where like last year,
$1 million.
Last year Taya was like, we should go to a game, and I was like, no, I want to wait until they make like a deep run and go to the Western Conference Finals or the Finals, and then they got fucking bounced. And she was like, see, we should have fucking gone. I'm like, yeah, you're right. So I was like, this year I want to go to like an earlier like playoff round game to like make sure I go at least see them once in the playoffs in case they do get bounced.
You got Saturday at 1:30, and then I think probably Monday at 7 would be my guess. Or no, probably like Monday at 8. Oh, they don't even have game. They don't have game 2 posted yet. So.
Okay. All right.
You could probably go buy game 2 tickets, but just TBD.
TBD.
They're like, it's Saturday at 1:38. And you're like, how are we going to play 2 games at once? They're like, this game counts as 2.
Yeah. Who do you think's going to win the title this year? What's your gut feeling?
I mean,
you think Boston will be back in the finals?
If the Nuggets stay healthy, and this is not me just being a homer, but if the Nuggets stay fully healthy, like Jamal's healthy, and you can just get back to a good 1-2 game with him and Yoke, dude, the Nuggets could just... They could go on a deep run that no one's expecting because people are like writing them off. They're like, but you have Jokic, and that's all you need.
I'm really hoping they make a deep run again. It'd be fucking awesome to watch them in the finals again.
I think the Rockets are too young. I think they had a great year, but I think they're too young.
What about Oklahoma City? Probably same thing.
I think they're too young, but I could see them in the Western Conference Final.
They're really fucking good.
They're a good team. They're deep,
yeah.
But it's one of those things that it's like, do you have that experience yet? Because we've seen with some teams, like, hey, you make a deep run with really young talent, and like I'll use the Avalanche for an example. Arguably the most talented roster on paper for multiple years in a row. Bounce in the second round.
Yeah, it can happen.
And it's one of those things, it's like sometimes you go against teams that just have a little bit more grit in the second round, and hockey's a completely different sport, but sometimes that experience gets you through. Sometimes it gets you through the long, grueling 7-game series. We should have beat Minnesota and been in the Western... If we beat Minnesota last year, we were playing Boston for a championship.
I was just about to bring that up. We ran into the most unfortunate matchup that we could have had in the playoffs last year, and Minnesota just matched up really well against us and beat us.
But then we lost Game 7. Like, we threw away Game 7.
But it's like, if we could make it past them, I agree, we're in the finals or possibly winning the title last year. I mean, who knows how it would have gone against Boston, but like... that just and then we saw what happened with Minnesota where they were like really hot early in the playoffs and then just totally it looked like they just ran out of steam completely.
I thought they were going to just steamroll the Mavs because I was like, who's going to stop them?
They've
ran
out of steam.
2 7-footers that are starting. They've got a third 7-footer that just drains threes,
and Anthony Edwards was playing out of his mind,
and it's like They got great depth players. They play great defense, and defense wins championships.
Their defense was insane last year.
And it's like, who's going to beat them? And then the Mavericks were just like, watch this.
Yeah.
And it's like a 2-man show with Luka and Kyrie, and you're just like, I don't.
Yeah.
So I think I don't know if I mean, Memphis, Golden State, if either of them are the 8th seed, they could definitely, like, if the Warriors are the 8th seed against Oklahoma City, there's so much experience on that team.
I was going to say, the Warriors are really tricky ever since they've played in all of those NBA finals, where it's like, even if they don't seem like they're in contention at all, that's a bad first-round matchup. Like, if you play them in the first round, you're like, fuck. It's Steph, it's Draymond, it's all these guys that have been there before.
Now they have Jimmy.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, shit. This is not a typical, like, lower-ranked seed that we're playing here. Right?
So it's one of those, like, I don't think they're a better team than the Thunder are, but if they're the team that ends up as the 8th seed and playing the Thunder, and on the Thunder, I'm going, let's try and get through this in 4.
Right.
Because the longer this series goes, the more you're going to get like a Game 7 Steph.
Right.
We don't know if there's a Game 7 Shea. We don't know if there's a Game 7 Chat. Like, do I think Shea's going to win?
Because Steph will do that shit where he'll be like, oh, we forced a Game 7. I'm going to drop 55.
Right. Like, I'm going to go 11 for 11 from 3.
Yeah, you're like, what the fuck?
And it's just like, how? And Draymond somehow doesn't foul out of the game and is like playing, and it's just like, you can't let them have a chance because they're just too experienced.
Championship pedigree,
and Steph was the best player in the world at some point. And he's the best shooter to ever play the game. Like, you don't want to play against it. I'm sorry. And so if I'm the Thunder, I would want to play the Grizzlies.
How do you think the whole Luka LeBron thing is going to work for the Lakers? Because ever since they got Luka, they have steadily just climbed the rankings in the Western Conference from where they were
So here's the biggest thing with the Lakers. They play the Timberwolves in the first round.
Yeah.
So one of the two teams in the West that I would have preferred not to play are going to be gone.
Yeah.
I think the Timberwolves are going to give them a really, really troubling time.
Yeah, well, you said that you described that series as going to be a bloodbath, and I think it is.
Well, I talked with Randy a little bit about this, and I've talked with some other people that like basketball more than me. When you get rid of Anthony Davis, who's the best player in the world? Nikola Jokic. You get rid of Anthony Davis, who guards Nikola Jokic? Everyone's like, oh, LeBron can do it. I'm like, come on. Who guards Nikola Jokic? Okay, LeBron's guarding Jokic. Who guards AG?
Yeah.
You can't guard all these guys. You got Rudy Gobert. Dude's 7'2" or whatever, who's a perennial defensive player of the year. Dude's just stand in the paint. You better hope Luka shoots, I don't know, 40% from 3 and he's putting up 15 threes. Yeah. You better hope Austin Reeves is on his game.
I will say, though, that Austin Reeves guy can fucking ball. He's really good.
He's another streaky guy. Like,
he's streaky, but he's really good.
Like when they play the Nuggets, it's one of those things when he shoots a 3, if it was like a bad miss. Same with D'Angelo Russell. If D'Angelo Russell made his first 3, it's like someone guard him.
Right.
Because if he starts going, it's gonna be a long night.
Yeah.
And that's when the Nuggets lost to the Lakers that one game last year or the year before. Russell made like 4 threes in a row, and I'm like, you can't let him see the ball go in. It's J.R. Smith. The dude's just gonna start throwing up. He's gonna get a rebound and just throw it, and it's gonna go in.
It's gonna go in. Yeah.
You guys have to play defense. I think the Timberwolves can beat the Lakers. I truly do, and I don't think the Lakers are really that good. They have experience, and they do have LeBron and Luka. I don't know. 1, fuck the Lakers. 2, fuck LeBron. I love Luka. I wish we would have known that Luka was available for trade. I would have given up Jamal and MPJ and like 8 first-round picks because Luka and Jokic here in Denver would just be
I still think the Mavericks made a colossal mistake getting rid of
Well, did you hear? So the Mavericks were playing, I don't know. They were playing somebody on TV this weekend. Or maybe it wasn't this weekend or this past, whatever. Anyways, the fans were all, they were playing the Lakers when Luka came back.
Oh, it was his homecoming game.
And they were like, literally all of American Airlines Center was screaming, fire the GM. And they panned to Mark Cuban, and he's kind of like looking around like,
Mark Cuban's
like, I sold my shares in the team to try and make the team better, and like, this is what we get. And it's like, you got rid of a franchise player. And then when they showed, I don't know if you watched that at all, but like when they did the thing for Luka, he's like legit crying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is a dude that wanted to be there.
Right.
He wanted to be in Dallas, and you guys were just like, "Don't fuck you."
And he literally took you to the finals last year.
And you guys were like, "We want Anthony Davis."
And he's
instead.
what? Like he's like 24 or something.
Yeah. And it's just like,
fucking insane, dude. I was so blown away when that happened. I was like, what is going on?
dude, I laughed. I was like, that's not a real thing. And then I read it. I'm like,
I knew that.
dude, what a colossal disaster.
You knew
for
that was a
Dallas.
colossal fucking trade when the entire internet was like a buzz about it. Of people who like usually probably don't even care about basketball were like, Dallas traded fucking Luka? What is going on?
And the funny thing was, we're all probably joking about it. And I know I was like, watch, now Anthony Davis is going to get hurt in like 10 games. And he got hurt.
He's always fucking
He's
hurt.
back now, but I'm like, you just got rid of your franchise.
Yeah.
Who, him and Dirk had a great relationship, and Dirk is literally the face of your franchise.
Yeah.
And then you just got rid of him for a dude that's always hurt.
For a guy who literally Taya's grandpa refers to as street clothes Davis.
Yeah. And so
He's always in fucking street clothes.
it like hurts because, like I said, I love Luka. I think he's a great player. He's fun to watch.
I do too. I really like
And
Luka.
it sucks that he plays with LeBron and the Lakers because
Yeah.
it's just like, I hate the Lakers. I hate LeBron. Why do you have to put a guy that I like with them?
How is the LeBron hate fan club going? How like you're the president?
Oh,
of that,
dude.
right? How is membership pretty strong?
We're fucking deeper than the LeBron fan club. We roll deep these days.
You're the fucking king of that mountain, dude. You hate LeBron.
Dude,
so
every
much.
time I see stuff on Instagram and I'm like, oh, this will rile someone up. And I'm like, I'm going to send it.
I ignored your one that you just sent like 2 days ago.
I know. You like the picture. You like the one I sent above
I skipped it. I
and the one
totally and I
below
liked
it.
I liked the next one. I just skipped that one.
And I'm sitting there going,
fuck you, man.
He definitely fucking saw it. And I'm like, I know Brandon's probably got his blood boiling going, oh, Matt just fucking hates LeBron. And I'm like,
Brandon did pipe in the other day when I was like, Matt, you're the number one LeBron hater. And he was like, old Matt Bayless over here.
dude, fuck LeBron. The dude's a pussy.
Dude, he just snapped his streak of averaging 25 points a game for the whole season.
No.
He had like 20 straight seasons where he averaged 25 points a game.
You know, everyone gave LeBron credit for scoring the most points in NBA history. How come no one cheers that he has like a 2,500 turnover lead on second place in the NBA history?
I don't know.
The dude leads the league in turnovers by like 2,500. He's almost got like double second place in turnovers.
Well, keep in mind he has played for 2 decades.
Okay,
He's
so
played
his-
a lot longer than most people.
So his
have.
points aren't really that impressive then. You just won the argument for me.
Okay, sure. Dude. I'm not fucking litigating this with you.
Dude, I have so much shit that like I watch that other people bring up, and everyone's like, so it's not the rings? And I'm like, you can't say rings or what is the GOAT because Bill Russell's the GOAT then. There's no debate. No one's going to catch him. He's the greatest player ever. Sam Jones.
I was gonna say
I
there's
think
a
he
guy
has
named
one
Sam Jones,
more
which I've always found to be
or one
hilarious.
less than Bill Russell, and it's like,
Yeah.
I agree. You can't sit there and be like rings are the only thing that determine the GOAT, but like one of the best arguments, and I love it because people, it's I wouldn't say it's old school, but it's more people that invest in the NBA. I'm not invested in the NBA. I just hate LeBron, and I love Jokic, and he goes, when was the last time you got robbed for your LeBrons? And this guy goes, I don't wear LeBrons. And they're like, exactly. They're like, when was the last time you got robbed for your Jordans? He goes, I don't wear my Jordans on the street. He goes, they stay in my closet. And the guy goes, you ain't no GOAT if people ain't robbing you for your shoes. And I'm like laughing. And it's like people saying all this. And then the thing that I agree with the most, though, in the GOAT debate is the real GOAT doesn't say that they're the GOAT. It is a peer-based conversation. And there's a clip where LeBron goes, I am the greatest to ever play the game. And when they asked him, they're like, are you the greatest player ever? He goes, well, no. You got to give Larry his flowers. You got to give Kobe. And he's hyping up everyone else. He didn't talk about himself at all. And so people use that, and I'm like, I do agree with that. If you sit there and you go, I'm the greatest player. I've never heard Tom Brady go, I'm the greatest player in NFL history. He goes, what about Peyton Manning? You know, he brings up Joe Montana, Steve Young. You're like, Tom Brady's the GOAT. I hate the guy too. Tom Brady's the fucking GOAT.
I want you to find me that clip of LeBron saying that because I've never seen it.
Okay, I'll find it.
I think you're making it up
No.
to support your
I will
argument.
find it before you
Okay.
leave. It'll be so quick and easy.
I'll claim it's AI generated.
Yeah. It's just pixels. You're like, I can't even tell who it is. I'm like, it says it, dude.
Oh shit.
But no, fuck LeBron. I don't think they're going to win. Honestly, so going back to your question, because I never really answered it. I said I want the Nuggets to win.
To be honest, out of the East, all I know is that Cleveland has been far and away the team with the best record all season, but Boston is right there, and they just won the title last year. It surprises me that the Knicks are up there. I don't know anything about the Knicks or the Pacers this year, but apparently they're pretty good.
The Knicks, if fully healthy, could be a really deep team and a really troubling. You got Jalen Brunson, who's one of the best point guards, a top 5 point guard in the league. You got Karl Anthony Towns, who's, when healthy, could be a top 5 center in the league. You got OG, Anunoby, who's a really good, I think he's a power forward. Mikal Bridges, who was one of the best small forwards. Like, they have a really deep, Josh Hart, who could average a triple-double, just a workhorse. They got a really deep team, but they've all been, like, hurt at the same time, or then, like, they're missing 2 of the 5, and that's, like, a huge hole. But the East is too top-heavy. I don't know anyone in there. I mean, maybe the Bucks could throw an upset. I think it's going to be Boston or Cleveland out of the East, and I don't know if there's really any.
It really does seem like the
argument
East
for that
is way different than the West, where it's like super top heavy like that. Whereas like you could see like 4, 5, 6 different teams having a realistic shot out of the West. I don't think that's the same for the East.
No, I think it's pretty safe to go between the Cavs and the Celtics out of the East.
Yeah.
And then my hunch would be, like, I'll pick 4 teams. I think it would be Thunder, Lakers, Nuggets, Timberwolves out of the West. Although the Clippers are the hottest team in the NBA right now. They finished like 16-1 in their last like 17 games or something like that. Like some absurd win streak. Kawhi goes down, Clippers team's done. And he's just as bad as Anthony Davis. He had a great start to his career when he was with San Antonio and was like the 5th string over there, but their greatest player at that time. And then he just gets hurt now. So it's one of those, if he's healthy, don't sleep on the Clippers.
Yeah.
But
someone posted, I follow all these like NBA and basketball pages on Instagram, and someone was posting 2014 Kawhi Leonard defensive highlights. Basically the caption was like, people forget how much of a freak this guy was on defense in his prime. Like when he was winning like defensive player of the year and shit like that. He was a fucking, like when Kawhi was like in his prime, when he was younger and healthier and more athletic and stuff, he was a fucking problem to deal with.
He defensively, bro.
Defensively insane.
Dude, he's got like a 49 and he's like a pterodactyl.
The reach, and he's got these giant fucking hands. The ball looks preposterous.
So not only does he have pterodactyl wings, but then he has fucking, what's got the biggest hands in the world? Sasquatch hands.
And like insane speed, insane hops.
Just terrible laugh, by the way. Just terrible personality. Sure, he's a great guy when there's no cameras around, but just... He's like, and you're like...
That clip of him laughing is so fucking funny.
Going back to the Clippers real quick, they went 14-2 to end the season. They were once 36-30, and they finished 50-32.
Wow. Well, that's not what you want if you're a Nuggets fan. They're coming in hot.
Yeah, but the last time they played the Nuggets, they lost 125-103 on January 8th.
Well, that was a while ago. It's now
the time before that was December 13th. They lost 120-98. The time before that, they beat us by 4. Fuck.
Well, you're probably back in like.
And the time before that, they beat us
something.
by 5. Fuck. We went 2-2 with them. But that's okay. Minnesota swept us, I'm pretty sure, this year, which means they weren't going to beat us in the playoffs.
Well, let's hope not.
That's how it goes.
Maybe we don't have to worry about facing them at all. Who knows?
Well, if my brain is correct, we'll play. If we beat the Clippers, we would play Oklahoma City.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, fuck. It's gonna be a tough road.
Get him out of the way early.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that I really care. I'm ready for NHL playoffs. Landeskog's back.
Nice.
3 years not playing. He's back.
I've been waiting on him to come back. I've been so hyped.
Everybody's been waiting on him to come back. It's been ages. You know what's funny? Someone actually, you know DNVR? They're like a, I don't know, I wouldn't call them a news company, but like a sports company here in Denver. Like there's a bar, DNVR bar.
I guess I don't
It's like a
really
big
know,
Denver sports bar. And they have like writers for all the sports teams. One of the guys on like their DNVR Avalanche podcast goes, well, the Sunday is Easter Sunday. And on the third day he rose again. And they go, what if the Avs play on Sunday And on the third year, he rose again, like joking that Landeskog is going to be resurrected on the third year. It was pretty funny.
I guess you had to be there.
I'll find the clip for you as well. And send it to you.
Honestly, all of this is lost on me because I don't know fucking shit about I don't know shit about hockey. I don't know shit about the Avs. I don't even know who that guy is.
Do you know shit about Easter?
I do know shit about Easter.
Okay, well,
yeah,
that's half the conversation.
Yeah, but it doesn't land if it's Avs stuff with me.
Landeskog's the captain of the Avalanche. He was the youngest captain in NHL history at the time of being named captain. He's from Sweden. Played a lot of hockey.
For 3 years.
So he had the same knee injury that Lonzo Ball had, where they had to get a cadaver of his knee cartilage.
Oh,
it's a crazy thing. 2020 bubble playoffs. He got cut like right above the knee in his hamstring with a skate.
Okay. I
don't know if you know anything about hockey skates, but they're like katanas.
So he got
like
on the back of his leg. He got
no.
sliced or
like
what?
Right here.
Well, you said hamstring
or quad.
I was like, what are you talking about?
Sorry, my hamstrings hurt. We did a leg day today. It's top of his quad.
Okay.
I don't know if you know anything about hockey skates, but they're literally like katanas. Like you could just chop people's faces off with them. And just a cut. So you'd be like, oh, nothing of it, right? He got it stitched up. I don't know if he returned because I think it was in like game 7 or something. But they were worried that he had fully cut his hamstring or his quad from like the knee. So like,
fuck.
More like pulled it, right? It wasn't that, it was just a deep cut. They go on. He has knee pain, gets it scoped. So a cut above the knee ended up causing his like, I don't know what the injury is, but like the bone cartilage in your knee, it just like disappeared. Like there was none there. So he had to get like a transplant. And this is like, he's the first person in NHL history to ever come back from this injury.
Oh my God.
If he comes back. Just like Lonzo Ball was the first person in NBA history to ever come back, because he was out for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
He was the first one to come back from the same surgery.
Wow. So it's just kind of like it's not like an ACL or anything. It's just kind of like this freak sort of weird injury that does not happen very often.
Yeah, so like there's a documentary out about it, and I need to watch it because I'm a huge hockey fan, obviously, and I love the Avs. But he like talks about the surgery and everything, but it's like a really, like you tear your ACL, you tie it back together, you stitch it back, you know, and then you rehab it, you strengthen around it. This isn't like, hey, I just got to strengthen around it. This is like, can you play? Like you're in so much pain. And
yeah.
So it's
are they worried about him ever being able to play again potentially? Well,
so this past weekend on Friday and Saturday, he actually played in his first 2 games in 3 years.
Oh, okay. So
he went up to the AHL in Loveland and played for the Colorado Eagles. In back-to-back nights, which is a really good thing, because there were times where you'd see him like skating and then he wouldn't skate for like a week, or we wouldn't see him skate for a week. And so it's one of those things, it's like, I mean, when you miss a pro sport for 3 years, jumping right into the playoffs, which you should watch a playoff hockey game, or at least just put it on in the background, right? You don't have to sit there and like, but just watch the speed of it and like the intensity of it. It's hard to go from not playing
to that
in an off season to jumping right into your season. It usually takes a couple weeks in the season to get like in the jump of things. Go from 3 years of not playing
to immediately in the playoffs.
Playoffs against one of your most hated rivals.
Yeah.
It's not going to be... So, like, my biggest fear as a fan is someone takes a run at him, hits his knee weird.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know how that knee injury works. Because if it's not an ACL, you're not worried about, like, the weird twists, I would think. So, right. I don't know. Because, like, Lonzo Ball, I mean, I know it's basketball, so it's different on your knees. Like, hockey's way harder on your knees than basketball is, and the different pressures. And so it's like, he came back quicker than Landeskog did, but it's like, basketball's a non-contact. Hockey, bro, you could have 4 dudes in the corner, sticks in the back of the legs, like, tripping you, your feet go, you're on ice. I mean, let's be real. So it's like a scary thing to think about, that, not like scary, but it's like, imagine you have everything you want. You just won the Stanley Cup, or you just won the NBA championship, and then you're like, fuck, my knee hurts, and you go to the doctor, and they're like, you might never play again.
Damn. That'd be crazy. I'd be like, oh, well, I'm rich, and I fucking just won a national title, or I won a championship.
Oh, I'm rich. I just won a national championship. They're like, let's tell him when the drugs are off or the alcohol. What was he on right now? They're like, we have no clue, but they were going hard in the locker room for the last 64
Like I told you, my knee fucking hurt.
We just gave him ibuprofen, so whatever else he's on.
I took some harder shit.
I think you guys gave me the wrong stuff in my ibuprofen cabinet. Oh, shit.
Well, hopefully he can come back and actually, play again in his career.
Yeah, it'll be nice. I mean, it should be all over ESPN if he comes back and has a good playoff run.
Yeah.
But you should watch a playoff game.
I'll try, dude. I have a lot of people in my life that try to get me into hockey, and it's just I can't do it. I don't know. It's just not my thing. Nothing against it. Like, I appreciate it. I've been to live Avs games. Like, I live hockey is a lot of fun to watch. I just didn't grow up watching it, didn't grow up playing it. I don't really know the game, so it's just hard for me to get into it.
That's why I said just throw it on in the background at least. Like if you're cooking dinner and there's going to be playoff hockey on 4 games every night.
Right.
Just throw it on in the background and give it a period or two.
Yeah. My thing is, especially with sports, I basically only really follow basketball and football at the pro and the college level, and then outside of that, I don't really watch sports. Like baseball,
no one cares. Every
once in a while, if it's the middle of the day or something, and I'm doing something, I just want to have the TV on, and I find some game. I'm like, oh look, I'll just put baseball on. It's a nice little.
I'll throw the World Series on, and that's about it.
I did watch the World Series last year. Me and Taya watched every single game. That was the most baseball I'd watched in years, and I actually had a really fun time watching the World Series. But other than that, I was like, I just don't watch it. I don't know. So outside of basketball and football, and I think I'm the type of person who you are a fucking sports nut, right? Yeah. I like sports a lot, but outside of the main sports that I follow, if it's outside of those seasons, I'm like, I'll just watch a movie or something. I'm not looking for sports to watch. You know what I mean?
When hockey's done and it's just baseball, I'll watch golf on the weekends. And then especially when I go to my parents on Sundays, my dad and I will watch the ending of all the tournaments. It'll just be, I'll be watching movies and shows because I could care less about baseball. Yeah. I mean, I'll follow it. I'll click on ESPN. I'll see how bad the Rockies are.
Yeah.
Because they just got shut out for the first time in franchise history in 27 innings. They scored 0 runs.
Jesus. Well, I think they've only won 3 games to start the season, right?
Well, they're down 4-0 to the Dodgers right now.
I think they literally have started. They were 3-11 when I checked the other day.
Yeah, I think they're.
Well, it's going to be a shit season again for the Rockies. Nice.
Yeah, we knew that going into the season. They're 3-12.
3-12. Killing it.
And they haven't scored a run in 33 innings at the current moment.
Oh my God!
If they don't score a run tonight, it'll be 4 straight games without scoring a run. And the terrifying thing is we still play the Dodgers 2 more times.
Let me ask you a question. How long do you think the Rockies have to be abysmally bad before people stop showing up to Coors Field to watch games? In any sort of way that it affects financials that would make the ownership be okay, we need to fucking do something about this.
Ownership will never do anything about it because Colorado baseball fans are just they're just there.
Well, I think that the thing that we've talked about before, what kind of sucks is that Coors Field is just such a vibe. It's just a cool place to hang out in the summer, especially, that people don't really go there for the game. They're basically at an outside bar with 40,000 of their closest friends, and there just happens to be a baseball game on, essentially.
Well, so
that's why no one really cares. Oh, well, they lost. All right, guys, let's head to the fucking bars.
So one thing about it too is we're in a division with 3 California teams, and all of California thought that they should move to Colorado and ruin it. And so when we play any of the California teams, it's just a home game for the California team.
Yeah.
If it's the Dodgers, it's all the Dodgers fans. Which, if the Dodgers are so great, why don't you move back to L.A.? Fuck off. Get out of our state. I speak for all Coloradans when I say that.
Yeah.
To all of you Californians, Texans, Floridans, just go back. We don't want you here. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I had a conversation with someone about that the other day. They're like, what do you hate about people moving to Colorado? And I'm like, they don't know how to drive in the snow. They made everything more expensive.
Yeah.
I hate people. But one thing I read about baseball, or at least the Rockies, they don't count attendance in terms of how many people came through. They count tickets sold.
Oh, so
if it's like they had
there's a bunch of people
18,000
buying
in
tickets who then
attendance,
don't show up.
Right.
They're like, yeah, great. We don't care.
the 18,000 could be however many people bought like a 50 game bundle or a 20 game bundle, or they have season tickets, or your company wanted to buy 1,000 tickets for a company party and 25 out of 1,000 people showed up. Like,
right.
I don't know if that's true or not. It was just something I read, but they were like, because they showed Coors Field, I think, in one of their athletic games, and it was like there were more people in the dugout than in the stands. And it's just like,
dude, at least it's not as bad as who was it, the White Sox? Towards the end of the last year, there was a shot on, like, I follow like it might have been SportsCenter who like put it on Instagram, and it was like the White Sox toward the end of the year last year had a doubleheader in the middle of the day. And it was like combined attendance.
I think it was like 700 or something.
I thought it was like less than that. They were saying it was like 50 people or something. It was like combined between two
There's
games.
more workers than there are people.
Yeah, there's like
attending.
literally more people working concessions than there are fans in the stands. And they're showing the insides shots of this, like the stadium during the games. And I'm like, that is the saddest thing I've ever seen. There's like one random guy over here, another person sitting way over there. It's like, this is fucking terrible.
And you know what?
Dude.
During that, you would be like, can I just go sit down here on the field? And they'd be like, where's your ticket? You're like, I'm all the way up there. The guy's like, sorry, I can't let you do it. I'd be like, can I speak to the owner, please? Can I speak to your manager?
I'm going to post up right behind home plate because there's no one fucking here.
You know what?
Here.
You're going to kick me out and have 49 people in here?
Exactly.
At least we'll have some commotion, and I'll give the fans something to watch.
All 49 other people are like, woo, kick him out.
Yeah. Streaker. It's all streak.
Some dude's up there. He's just crushed like 30 fucking beers. He's shit-faced.
Woo! They're like, sir, it's the second inning of game 1. Go team!
Oh, man. Fucking baseball.
Yeah.
It does suck that the Rockies are always so ass. Because if they were, it would be so much more fun, and there'd be so much more of an incentive to go to games if they were competitive.
Well, think about this. Every sports team in Colorado has won a championship now.
Yeah.
The Rapid have won. The Mammoth have won. The Colorado Crush won when they were still here. The Outlaws have won. The Broncos were the first to bring, or the Avalanche were the first to bring one. The Broncos followed. The Avalanche followed again. Now the Nuggets and the Avalanche. And then the Rockies are like, we're good being the worst team in MLB history. I think they're the third worst team in terms of win percentage in MLB history.
Yeah, and this franchise is as old as I am. It's literally
right.
Since 93, we haven't really ever done shit.
We had the one year we ran to the World Series in October.
We went all the way to the World Series and got swept by the Red Sox.
And I think that was the year that the Red Sox broke their 100-year Babe Ruth curse. Yeah. So I was like, well, at least we helped you guys out.
Yeah, right.
We weren't supposed to be here, it sucks. But we were like, hey, maybe this is the start of something new. And it was like, yeah, no.
It's like, no.
Next year, we're going to suck again.
Yeah, we'll be right back to the same old shit next year.
Troy Tulowitzki wanted a $100 million contract for 10 years. No, we're going to trade him for a guy that had domestic violence charges. And we're like, sweet, why don't you just trade for a prison? I don't know.
It might work out better. Who knows?
Maybe we trade for, I don't know, let's go for Alex Rodriguez next. Like, he's 59 years old. Like, perfect, in your wheelhouse. Might be able to afford him.
Oh, man.
I don't know. We got to baseball real quick somehow, and March Madness was our topic.
Yeah, it ended up being a more sports, like, all-around discussion.
We don't need to go through a whole bracket. It's like...
Yeah. Well, we should say, I guess, coming back to the March Madness, thank you to everybody who did participate in the Just Browsin bracket pool. We appreciate you signing up. I didn't recognize a lot of the bracket names. I'm sure I know a lot of the people who submitted brackets. I don't know if you know who some of the bracket names are, if you know who submitted those or not. But
so I think we know everybody in there. So we have your wife, Caleb, me, the Master Gators. Take a guess who that one was.
Is that Brandon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I was talking to him, like, dude, someone put the Master Gators. He goes, you like my bracket names? I'm like, oh, you're the Master Gators. All right. It's a pretty funny one.
Touche, Brandon. Touche.
Sam, your brother.
Right.
You. Here for the Denver D's is Taylor.
Okay.
Caleb. That's my brother. Believe that's my mom. That's my dad. I believe that's Brandon, my brother. I'm assuming that's Dean because it has Dean.
I was going to say, a few of these I figured were Dean, but I didn't know which ones.
That's me. That's my mom. Sam. That's my mom and I. We always do a mascot bracket together.
Okay.
That's Taylor's brother, Les Hoffman.
Oh,
Me,
okay.
You, Dean again, you, Taylor, Brandon, Sam or Kayla
For Lincoln. Yeah.
Caleb, and Brandon again.
All right.
So it's everybody we knew.
Yeah, I figured we knew everybody. I just didn't know, like, some of the bracket names. I couldn't tell from the name of it.
Yeah.
I was like, who is that?
All the creative ones were Brandon.
Oh, man. Well, it was fun. And
It's
again,
always a great time.
shout out to you, babes. Shout out to Taya for taking it home this year.
She's not going to listen to this.
We're gonna I told her, I was like, you gonna take me out to a nice steak dinner or something with your winnings? Like $550 is a nice little chunk of change for March Madness. And I think what we're gonna do is go up to the Monarch Spa up in Blackhawk and do the spa up there. Dude, that spa is fucking wonderful.
You know what's funny though is
It's so
I've already called the IRS and said that you guys didn't file taxes on that.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're gonna have to go file some taxes on that. Tax day's tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
Better not spend all that money in one happy massage
With a happy ending.
with a happy ending. All right, Deshaun.
No, that's where not Bill Belichick, but fucking Robert Kraft got into all that trouble.
and Deshaun Watson
And Deshaun
Justin
Watson.
Tucker.
And Justin Tucker. Yeah, that's right.
Fucking pervs. But yeah, thanks to everyone for filling out brackets. It's always fun. We'll be back next year with another Just Brackets episode. Or hopefully it's a lot more chaotic of a bracket. I love it when
Yeah.
there's like a 12 seed.
Well,
It's
you
like,
know,
we're making a run to the Final Four. It's like, yes.
We're going to be right. Jay Belis was saying the same thing on that conversation that I listened to with Ryan Russillo. He's like, everyone's complaining that it's just all the higher seeds making it this year. And he's like, you know what? We're going to be back to the usual
This
thing.
is the one
next
in
year.
20 years. that
This is
gonna
honestly,
happen.
this is an anomaly this
Right.
year of this sort of shit happening. It's usually you get at least like a 3 or a 4 or a 5 seed has made it all the way to the Final Four, or like in those lucky years you'll get like an 11 makes a deep
Right.
run. You're like, all right, now we got some crazy shit happening. It's going to happen again
I
next
mean,
year.
we started to get used to like 15s and 16s winning like at least one and
Yeah.
just throwing everybody through
Right.
a loophole.
Right.
And now it's like, okay, every 1 and 2 played each other more or less.
Right.
We're
Which,
bored.
like I said, ended up kind of working out. I mean, there was no excitement and no Cinderella stories, but it ended up making for a really fascinating Final Four and national title because those teams, like all 4 of the
They're
number
just
1
all
seeds
evenly
were
matched.
really evenly
Yeah.
matched and really good teams.
It wasn't like, hey, this team was really hot, but they're going to drop off in one game and lose
Right.
by 100. It's like,
right.
no, this is going to be a nail biter.
Because, there was no, like, sometimes there'll be like a Gonzaga comes in and gets like a 1 seed or something, and you're like, yeah, but I don't have a lot of faith in
They're like
Gonzaga.
36 and 1, and then they lose to the 8th or 9th seed in the
Right,
second
you're like,
round.
yeah, I don't know about this. All 4 of the number 1 seeds this year was like, they're pretty fucking good. Like,
Right.
the only worry about Duke was like, is Cooper Flagg going to be healthy? But then turns out that wasn't a concern.
That
so-
was like their biggest worry. And then my biggest worry about like Houston was their inconsistencies.
yeah.
And same with Auburn. And then Florida was just like, they're the hottest team right now, but can you keep that rolling?
Right.
And
And they proved
they
they
all
could. So.
proved that they could.
First title for Florida since they won back-to-back in 2006 and 2007.
You know, it's funny, though. Shout out to my Colorado Buffaloes. Last year in the March Madness tournament, number 10 seed Colorado beat number 7 seed Florida. It was like 102 to 100.
Wow.
And they said that the majority of this year's Florida team was on that team.
Wow.
So CU last year was the best team in college basketball.
Oh, is that your
That's
conclusion?
what
from
I
that?
came to the conclusion.
Well, I think Florida's coach, I'm spacing on his name right now, but he's like one of the youngest national championship winning coaches.
Yeah.
He's only like 39 years old or something like that.
Well, speaking of coaches, going back to the Michael Malone thing, apparently Hurley has interest in coaching
I
Nuggets.
saw that. Dude, Dan Hurley is a fucking psycho.
That's what I'm like. If you guys didn't like Malone's coaching style,
He
you
is
think
a
you're going to like
fucking psycho.
Hurley's coaching style?
I like Hurley, and he seems to be a really phenomenal coach, but that dude is a lunatic.
Dude,
you watch him on the
yeah.
sidelines, and you're like, buddy, you need to take a breath, take your blood pressure medication. It's going to be all right. Like,
But, dude, I mean, he gets recruits to come there, so clearly he's a
Yeah.
good person as well. Like, he's
Yeah.
able to connect with these young kids. And
he just is a fucking
dude, yeah,
psycho.
you look at him, and it's just like veins out of his head. You're like, dude, they're going to pop. It's going to pop. It's going to happen.
It is entertaining watching those games because he's over on the sideline, especially if things aren't going their way. He's losing his mind.
Yeah. And then they win, and he's just like, it was a piss poor effort from our team.
Yeah.
We're just like, dude, be happy. But then even Gino said the same thing a couple years ago. They won a tournament game, and he goes, we shouldn't have ever won this game. He
Yeah.
goes, give all the props to that other team. They
Yeah.
played lights out. He goes, we just out-talented them, and that's it. We didn't deserve to win the game.
Yeah.
He goes, we just had more talent that could somehow force the ball in more than they could. But as a team, he goes, they played the best game ever. And he goes, they should have won. And we won, and he goes, I'm not even happy. He goes, I want they should have won, and I wanted them. And I'm like,
well, we've all been, anyone who's played sports has been a part of at least one or two of those wins where you win the game, but your coach is fucking pissed at you for how badly you played. They're like, really? That was the effort we're going to put out today? You're like, hey, man, we won.
Dude, we did that in high school football. Looney was like screaming at us, and I go, Looney,
we won the game.
We won the game. He goes, we should have been better. And I'm like, we literally scored a touchdown every time the offense touched the ball. What could we have done better? Went for 2 every time? Yeah, okay, we could have scored 7 extra points.
It's like, hey, as long as you get the dub, it doesn't matter how it looks.
Hey, you win by 1, and they're like, get on the line. You're like, we won the game. We won the Super Bowl.
No, that's the worst is what would happen, especially like when I played basketball, is if you're playing a team that's clearly not as good as you and you eke out a win by like 2 points, coach is fucking pissed. It's like, we should have beat that team by fucking 30. And you're like, oh, great, here we go.
Yeah, well, you didn't play me, coach, so.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Well, coming up soon on the Just Browsin podcast, I think we're going to do...
Coming to theaters near you.
I think we're going to do a dragon... podcast. We wanted to follow up our dinosaur discussion. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the dinosaur discussion and had fun with that silly episode. We're going to do a dragon one as promised. And then The Last of Us Season 2 is now back. The first episode premiered last night. So I think what we're probably going to do is maybe hold off until Season 2 is done and then do like a Season 2 Last of Us discussion, kind of like what we did with Season 1. So I'm very excited for that. So stay tuned for that. And obviously before... that point, we'll do a couple episodes in between now and then because it'll be a few.
I think we're going
to
try and do an episode kind of like we did with Zach's wife and one of our friends of the Am I the Asshole? I think we're going to try and throw a few of those in there.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Just we need some good random episodes where we just kind of have those free discussions about some random funny topic, kind of like the dinosaurs. But speaking of that real quick, I can't remember. Shout out to Randy's buddy that they work with who's at the gym. The dude that was at the party.
Just narrowed it down.
The muscular dude. The guy that Rachel and Randy film at the gym that they like work with when they're doing like their health.
Oh, okay. Was he there on Saturday night?
Yeah, I was talking
I don't know
a lot
if I
to him.
like introduced myself or maybe I did and I don't think I ever talked to him.
You are.
Yeah. Well, I'm like,
I was talking to him like, yeah, Zach out there and we do a podcast. And he goes, it was like one of our last episodes was on dinosaurs and how there's a conspiracy theory that dinosaurs are fake. And he kind of looked at me. He was like, did you guys actually do an episode on that? I was like, yeah. And I was like, I thought it's hilarious. And I was like, I'm going to play the guy that like believes that dinosaurs were fake. He was like, do you think dinosaurs are fake? I was like, they could be. And I don't think he kind of got my sarcasm right away that I'm like, I mean, there's a legit chance. I've never seen one of you. I'm like, I haven't held a dinosaur fossil of you. And like kind of was like doing that. And he goes, I have a friend that legit believes that dinosaurs were fake. And I'm like,
we need to have him on the pod.
I should have met you a couple weeks ago.
Because that guy's in the weeds with it, too.
Well, he was like, yeah. And then he was like, yeah, I smoked a lot of weed when I thought of that. And I'm like, yeah. But it's fucking hilarious when you think about it.
Maybe that's what it needs to be. You smoke enough weed, any conspiracy sounds like it's true.
Hey, dude, weed's good for you.
It's like that 70s show, all those shots of them in the basement where it like pans around them at the fucking table in the basement. And there's just a haze of smoke, and they're just saying random shit. Dude.
Kelsey's always just like, whoa.
Dinosaurs aren't real.
Whoa. Yeah. But no, we'll have a bunch of episodes, hopefully. And I think we're going to be, this is episode 149, so 150 will be soon. And then we'll have to plan something for the 5-year, because this will be 5 years on August 1st this year.
Half a decade making podcasts. Fuck. We're getting old.
Dude, it doesn't feel like 5 years ago.
No, it does not.
Think about 5 years ago from now, you weren't allowed to leave your house. You got shot if you went to the grocery store.
I feel like I do this every like 6 months or so. I'll be like, babe, do you remember when we just like weren't allowed to leave the house and like everything shut down and like our apartment faced I-25 and there would just be like no cars on I-25 for like 2 minutes at a time? And I'm like, there's just no one out on the roads.
And now it's just cars.
I'm like, that happened, and we all just like moved on, and it's just it seems like it doesn't.
We were all okay with being told, "Hey, fuck your life, don't live it. Go sit inside and just do nothing.
It seems like it's so surreal. It does not feel like it. And it was such a fucking time warp too, because that like on the same token, it feels like it kind of just happened, like we just came out of lockdowns, but also it's like, fuck, that was 5 years ago. How did that happen?
Everyone flying with masks. You had to have a mask everywhere you go. And then
Wild.
Now they come out and they're like, the mask didn't do anything. It's like sick. So I sat for 3.5 hours on an airplane with sweat dripping down because I had a mask over my nose that now doesn't do anything.
Yeah, let's
Just
not
times.
turn this into a COVID pod at the very end.
Yeah, we'll do a COVID pod next. And we'll just talk shit about it because we were locked up.
Oh, boy.
But, yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back sooner than later with another episode. We'll figure something out. We might need to do one like... We got to get like more than 4 people on. It might be chaotic, but we got to try one.
Well, we'll have to basically do that. We'll have to figure out how to like Zoom someone in, essentially, right? Because I don't know if we're gonna.
We could do that, or it would just have to be we're sitting in a room where multiple people have to share a mic. Like me and you could keep our mics,
Yeah.
and then like we could keep the headsets on if we wanted, but we can only have 4. And then like if we wanted to do like 5 or 6 people, 2 people would just have to share. So the guests would all share a mic.
Sounds like chaos.
You're telling me.
Anyway, more episodes to come. Thanks everybody for tuning in. This is our first time back in a couple weeks, but we wanted to touch back in with everybody on March Madness because we did the little March Madness preview episode. So shout out to the Florida Gators. Shout out to Babes. Shout out to Taya for winning a bunch of money. And we'll be back with some Dragon talk and some Last of Us talk and maybe touch in on the NBA playoffs or something. Who knows? We'll figure out some stuff. So
Yep. Well, thanks everybody.
Till next time, everybody. See ya.
Bye. Hot stream leader.